Becky. Hey, anybody out there? Oh. This was the Latin Eagles gang. They would do this, believe it or not. And then, God, Black Stone, Disciple, Latin King. Oh man, I've probably forgotten more gang signs than I can remember, huh? Whew. Hi, Chris. So, welcome, Kathy. Welcome. If you're on YouTube, you're wondering who I'm talking to. I'm talking to Facebook. That doesn't quite make sense. I'm simultaneously podcasting on Facebook and talking to people interacting. Anybody, if you're on YouTube, never is, you're welcome to interact also. Welcome, everybody. It's 6:02. It's May 14th, Friday, 2021. And I'm in Central Standard Time. I think that's what it's called, because I'm in Dallas, and that's Central, same as Chicago. A lot of people are always saying to me in Chicago, what time zone are you in? Same one you're in. Oh, I thought you were. No, I'm in the same time zone. So there. So welcome. Today's music selection is extraordinary. It's top shelf stuff, right? Bob Dylan, come on, knocking on heaven's door, and two Beatles jams, Fool on the Old Norwegian Wood. So here's the thing. This is what I think is the thing. I'm curious, and I thought this could be a more interactive beginning. Anyways, I may die on the vine, but here's what I was thinking. I'm like, religion in my thought on religion is it's a outgrowth of the fear of death. If you're afraid to die, it's helpful to have religion, because religion explains after death in large measure. So the question I pose to this group is, why are you religious? And if so, why? Is it because you were raised that way, or you embraced it because it feels right, because the universe is dictated? I just don't know. I know it. How Chris is, like a wild man. He's like, I don't know. He's a combination of pagan, a Wiccan, atheist, and I don't know what else. But I don't know what the rest of you think, and you may not think. You may just do. I was born into a Judaic home, a Jewish home, and I attended religious training for probably from the age of about 4 or 5, don't remember, until the age of 13. And that included Sunday school on Sundays. Once I was old enough, whatever that means, whatever it was, I started training in Hebrew school 2 days a week. And then we went to the synagogue 1 day a week for services. That would be the Sabbath. So that's 4 days a week that I sometimes interacted with a synagogue, Road Phi Zedek, for those of you from the south side of Chicago. I never really was, I never really bought in. I didn't not buy in. I just wasn't my thing, man. I went along with everything. I was raised around primarily Jewish children for a long time. My family attended a country club that was probably almost exclusively Jewish, the synagogue. I know kids from those two arenas, the synagogue and country club, since I was, 4 years old. So culturally, many Jewish people identify culturally as Jewish, but not religiously. It's our little escape clause. The rest of you, I've met everything over the years, but I don't really probe people. I've run into a lot of people, for instance, in Alcoholics Anonymous, who say they're former Baptist. You meet them here. You don't see that in Chicago. I grew up with a lot of Catholics, and a lot of them are still practicing Catholics. A lot of my friends go to church on Sunday here, whether they're Catholic or Baptist, quite a few of them. More so, I would say, here than when I lived in Chicago or when I lived in Tucson. I was subjected to Catholic confinement as a child. I'm thinking Catholic confinement, is that like you were locked in a room for punishment? You had to go to catechism, and that was confinement. Catechism was funny. I didn't know what catechism was. And isn't it funny? I never inquired, even though once or twice a week, I don't remember again, when I was in grade school, Catholic kids, a group of Catholic kids left early each day that they were going to catechism. And I never asked what catechism was. I eventually figured out catechism was a substitute for people who were not already in a parochial school. So those kids went somewhere, I assume a church, now I would assume, and studied Catholicism and as a supplement to their public school education. I don't think kids who attended St. Philip Neri, for instance, which was near me, went to catechism or they went to catechism, but it was part of their daily curriculum, right? I was fascinated as a youth that you would see nuns and priests walking down the street with their stuff. You don't see that anymore. I think that nuns have been released from the having to wear the habit. Priest, I don't know why I don't see more. I mean, in Chicago, you saw a lot of collars. Now, some of those collars were not priests, some were pastors. I had a friend who was a Lutheran minister. He wore a collar, and a friend of mine who was an Episcopal priest. He wore a collar. But I don't know. I don't see collars very often anymore, and I don't see Catholic priests much anymore. And I probably see nuns, but I don't know they're nuns because they're not wearing the thing. I had the full Catholic school experience, which means, Joan, that you start out in Catholic school and probably went all the way through high school. Did you go to one on the South Side? Of course you did. You were raised on the South Side. I worked in Morgan Park, and a lot of the women there, a lot of the young ladies went to, oh my God, I am so tired of forgetting the names of things. There was a school, very prominent Catholic girls' high school, somewhere not far from where I was in Morgan Park. Uh, Mother Angels, Mary, something, I don't, God, darn it. Of course, there were numerous boys' Catholic high schools near me. Just anywhere from Mount Carmel to doesn't matter. Those of you that grew up, there was a bunch of them, and I used to know all their names because you knew somebody that went to almost all those schools. Because if you grew up in the South Side of Chicago, there were Catholics and there were Jews. There were no Baptists. So, filling in the blanks now, you could volunteer why you think you are religious, even if it's marginal religious. I begged all summer, and they finally let me skip all girls Catholic high school. So you went to public high school then, Joan? Is that the idea? Or you went to a co-ed Catholic high school? I don't know that I can recall any co-ed Catholic high schools. My boarding school was Methodist. I didn't know that. When I got sent to boarding school, I didn't even know what the word Methodist meant either. And what happened was I just wanted out of Chicago, away from my family. So I agreed to go to Tilton School in Tilton, New Hampshire. And I was as stunned as anybody when Sunday night, because we started on a weekend, as I recall, Sunday night, they told us we had to put on our ties and our blue blazer. You had to wear a blue blazer and a white shirt and go to something called Vespers. I'd never heard the word Vespers. Seemed like a religious ceremony to me. And then Monday morning, right after breakfast, off you went to the chapel for a religious something every morning. Every morning. You went to Thornton in Harvey, Thornton Township High School, Thornton High School or Thornton Township High School. I don't know. So you can just a brief comment has to be more than one word. If you're willing to go out on a limb and say, "Yeah, I'm Catholic and I dig Catholicism because I'm afraid to die and I want to believe I'm going to go to heaven," or my parents raised me and I have remained a practicing Catholic all these years, or I'm a Baptist, or I'm a Jew, or I could care less. I'm kind of curious. Thornton Township High School, TTHS. That's what I'm guessing. So I've confessed to you, I never went to a religious day school. There was one near us called Akiba Jewish Day School. I never went there. I just went to the synagogue in the after hours. A bus would bring you home around dinner time. So we probably had, what, about 2 hours of Hebrew and religious instruction 2 days a week, and then again Sunday school on Sunday, and then we were supposed to practice our religious upbringing on Saturday on the Sabbath. But as I've already confessed to you, I used to go through the coat room where people hung their coat and rifle through the pockets to get money to go down to the restaurant. Anti-religious. Becky is anti-religious. So raised Baptist. So you're one of those I referenced to a former Baptist. And there's a lot of those here. There's also a lot of uh, active Baptists here. We have some of the largest Baptist churches in the world here in Dallas, Texas. The First Baptist Church downtown, supposed to be a mega church. Prestonwood Baptist Church, I believe, is a mega church, and there's probably another. And then Texas has Joel Osteen in Houston with his mega church, and then we have this T.D. Jake, I think. He's so so Becky's the only one came out of her bag and told y'all she was not a practicing Baptist clearly, but was raised such. I think, since you're not commenting, I think that dying created the need for religion. I think people are afraid of death, and I don't blame them. I'm not segregating myself. I think people are afraid of death. I think people are afraid of death, most all of us. And religion answers the question, what's going to happen to me, right? I don't think anybody thinks, oh, I want to go to hell, but they if they can believe that there's a hell, then they can believe there's a heaven, and then they can aspire to something. So I think first and foremost, the reason there's always been religion, even back to cave dwellings, you can see the depictions of godlike individuals on the walls, and then going forward, there's always been a prominence of religion, whether it was multi-theistic or monotheistic, atheistic, didn't matter. The Buddhists like to think of themselves as more reasoned religious people, but I don't find that's necessarily all true. I think that the teachings of the Buddha on suffering are extraordinarily accurate, but I don't think that rebirth and or reincarnation are necessarily critical to Buddhism, although a lot of Buddhists feel it is. You have to have time to work out your karma. So for me, I tend to be religious Buddhist as opposed to Jewish. And the reason being not because of death, but because they were so integrated with meditation as part of the religion, and I was so enmeshed with the meditation once I got started. And I mentioned to y'all, I hiked a lot with a monk. And I made the declaration, when you hike with a monk, you're going to talk Buddhism. Whether you like Buddhism or not, it's kind of irrelevant. There's just not a lot to talk to when you're hiking with somebody who's been a Buddhist monk his whole life. You're not going to talk about dating typically. You're not going to talk about money. I mean, they're just not that engaged in a lot of these things that lay people are. Kathy's anti-religious. She occasionally went to a Baptist church, more so when visiting family in Georgia. Yeah, that makes sense. My uncle was a preacher. It's hard for me to see y'all in Georgia, and Gary always kind of made claim to Georgia, her brother. But then somewhere along the line, he laid claim to Louisiana, New Orleans, as I recall. And I remember thinking, where did that come from? Yeah, I know a lot of people, well, not a lot, I know a few people with family in Georgia, and they're all Baptist. So, so far, overwhelmingly, people are anti-religious, which may not reflect the sum total of people who listen to the podcast. Although maybe it says something about the people that would listen to me have to be a little bit not religious because I'm too profane. Even when I'm not using profanity, it's clear that I'm a profane person. I don't have idols. I don't have gods. I don't have the respect that some people have for the concept of God. I've got respect for the need for God, that if you're going to suffer the fear that is almost always associated with death, then there are very few things that could relieve that anxiety. Drugs would not be the answer because drugs are always temporal. They're only meant to address something that's in the now, and dead isn't in the now for people. Dead is towards the end. And so I don't think drugs meets it. Um, and but I think um, Tommy Stafford fucking down, smoke one. Okay, I'm completely don't know what that means. Gary was born in New Orleans, and I was born in Chicago. Okay, and yeah, yeah, I didn't know he'd been born in New Orleans until later in his life when he told me that. Um, I'm sorry, I had to clean my glasses. Still hate the word subservient, says Becky. And, you know, I could see where the word subservient in a religious context would be troublesome. We find that we are often trying to find our place in a spiritual world. And oftentimes in the spiritual world, subservient is kind of goes hand in hand with humility and humbleness. So, in some context, I would think the word subservient wouldn't have that kind of cachet, but not knowing Baptist, but guessing, it sounds like a Baptist concept, and it would probably be unwelcome concept, especially to women. So, yeah, yeah. So, I was saying that as a Buddhist, or somebody who practices Buddhism, both as a meditation, but I have practiced Buddhism as a religion quite a bit. What else can you be when you are when you're dressed in saffron robes? You're pretty in it, man. You're in it to win it because you got to do the whole deal. Chanting, meditating, doing the blessings. It's a fairly rigid, fundamentalist religious life. So I have lived it in my later years. And I thought it was ironic because I hadn't been religious my adult life. And then suddenly at 55, I get involved with Buddhism. Next thing I know, I'm all the way in. The Baptists teach that women are subservient to men and cannot hold leadership roles in the church. Bye. That's when I said, see ya. Okay. I didn't know that. I'm not terribly shocked by that. I mean, we do know that um, Catholics don't have women priests. Episcopalians didn't always have them, but they do have women priests now. There's a lot of denominations, but I know that the Southern Baptist Conference has been very reluctant to see women in leadership roles. So subservient to men. Huh. Yeah, I think maybe Mormons are like that too, if I recall. I live next to a bishop in the Mormon church when I lived in my first house in Tucson. And a nice man. He was a professor at the University of Arizona in food science. He and his wife were very integrated into the Mormon community. They went on missions overseas quite a bit. It's penis power. Well, that's not something we want to yell out in during the church service at the Baptist church. I'm sure of that. Well, so this is becoming kind of a feminist thing because using the term penis power suggests a disdain for the power of a penis, thus a certain hostility towards the concept. I've never wielded penis power nor yielded to penis power. So I've not had to shrug and turn my back to it. But I would guess if I was a woman and I felt like somebody was lording their penis over me, I'd probably get an umbrella and tell them to go away. All right. So I think that I don't see a lot of value in most religion unless you need a moral code because you don't have one. So you don't have one. So then there's there's the Ten Commandments. It's a moral code, right? Delivered by a Jew, Moses. And then, the Buddhists have the 5 vows. And, there's this, if you are coming up short on the moral compass, then embracing a religion could provide you with that which is missing. And that may be really important for people who are bipolar and have a problem with morality because of impulse control. So it may be good for those people that they should stay close to, the church. Becky is now surrendering. It's an old saying. I love men, just not those that think women are less than. Kathy has been to a Mormon church. I've been and visited a Mormon church, but nobody was there. We have a Mormon church in Dallas, pretty big. I think I've walked the grounds. I think I bicycled the grounds. I don't think I got inside. It's a pretty magnificent looking edifice from the outside. I've seen the Mormon Tabernacle in Utah on TV, and I've seen the inside of it when you have a TV special with the Mormon Tabernacle Choir. A lot of people feel religion is controlling. Well, what kind of person would think that? So I think the whole point of religion is controlling. If somebody doesn't feel religion is controlling, they're probably kind of missing most of the point. The point is that people surrender to religion in order to control their more base instincts. And then the religious, the people who create the religions are interested in controlling people. As Karl Marx said, religion is the opiate of the masses. Um, so I be, I guess there's people don't realize that religion is for controlling. That's on the side of the religion, though. The question I posed here today was, are you religious? And if so, in what way? Um, what the point of religion is really irrelevant to this particular conversation. That would be me bringing in some clergymen and asking them what do they think their purpose is, what are they trying to fulfill for their congregation. Then we would talk about that part of controlling. But when we're talking about the consumer, then we're asking what value do you find in it? So far, we have heard about the lack of value in religion, but I'm pretty sure, of course, I have a small audience. A bigger audience would certainly have people who could volunteer what they believe is the value of their religious beliefs. I've kind of thrown out there that in Buddhism, I found the vows, the five vows: not to kill, not to steal, not to lie, not to commit sexual misconduct, and not to partake of intoxicating substances, to be a moral code that, even though I was a moral person, it was an immediate guidebook. Like when I want to tell a little white lie because I don't want to hurt somebody's feelings or whatever, now I've got my little cheat sheet and it says, yeah, no, that's not permitted. That's that's not, you vowed not to do that. So but I have liked, for me, the religion I've chosen of late, Buddhism, has been particularly helpful in resolving my conflict about things like losing my money, losing my wife, whatever it's been. Um, See, Rachel, you keep offering what other people are doing, and again, let me put it out there in a way that hopefully you all understand. Why are you religious? So if your conjecture is people think they have to go, then that's conjecture, because now you're talking about people. That's outside of you. And I'm not offering up to you why you go. I'm asking those of you that are willing to answer, what is it that you believe? Do you follow religion, and why? And um, we know that Becky doesn't follow religion, and she offered the why. And I appreciate that, Becky. You don't like the subservient element, probably some other things, and some of you offered up your religion without saying what you believe in today. We know that Joan eventually bailed on the full religious experience, but she didn't cop to, today's beliefs. Um, so um, I think I was able to explain my religious posture. I'm not as afraid of death as I used to be. In Buddhism, we meditate on death. We believe it's inevitable. And if it's going to be inevitable, and it's important how you die in Buddhism, it's important to go out with calmness, equanimity. So we are taught you should practice dying because you want to have some calmness accompany you. Because if you go out clawing and grasping at life, that's really a bad karma and will harm you in what would be your rebirth. So the Buddhists place a lot of emphasis on learning to die, being good with dying, and dying with presence. I'm a non-practicing Catholic. I like to keep it simple. Treat people the way you want to be treated. Isn't that like the golden rule or something? Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And that seems a simple one, and it seems one that most people could get behind, right? Because it's very personal. Do unto others as you would. And yet, we have people that would absolutely agree with you that treating people the way they want to be treated is critical, and yet they would use a language of hostility and animosity towards persons who they don't think believe like they believe. Right now, the country is in the grips of a right wing Christian evangelical movement that is loaded with white supremacists and all kinds of racist, anti-Semites, virulent ones, and they're often associated with what we call the Christian right, and that has a specific meaning. It's just not right-leaning Christian. The Christian right is a movement, a very challenging, threatening movement that's been afoot for a number of years in the United States. So Joan came out of the closet, and Kathy kind of came out of the closet, and I came out of the closet. I'm very interested in religions. My friend Karen and I went to all the places of worship we could find in Hyde Park when we were in sixth. Wow, that's a real undertaking, Ann, that you would do that in sixth or seventh grade. Wow, man, you know, I walk with this woman, Cynthia. She has a tremendous amount of curiosity about things. She'll look at a plant and wonder what it is. And I have other friends that show tremendous curiosity, as you did early on. Um, I just never showed a great deal of curiosity about religion or a lot of other things until I was an adult, and like when I was working with the kids on the streets. The Lutheran Church was a tremendous support. Episcopal Church was a lot of support. Catholic Church wasn't. So I got to know Lutherans and I got to know Episcopalians because they were helping me. The Lutherans were my peeps, man. The Resurrection Lutheran Church on the north side of Chicago, Pastor Steve Swanson, became the chairman of the board of Locomotion, my street, the agency I had for working with street kids. A Lutheran, but don't go to church very much. Yeah, that's you probably aren't worried about going to hell. I have friends that are fairly religious here. I said it earlier, much more so than in Dallas or Tucson. I have friends here that are, excuse me for this, but who are religious about their religion. They go regularly. They're in church on Sunday. They go with their family. That may mean their wife. That may mean their children. I know people. I go to an AA meeting at 8 o'clock on Sunday mornings if I'm not out bicycling. And there's a number of people that leave that meeting who say, I've got to get to church. Yeah, I didn't hear that in Chicago that often. So kudos for being a Lutheran or choosing to be a Lutheran after checking out all the place of worship. And the other thing about Hyde Park, we had the Unitarian Church, we had synagogues, we had Reformed synagogues and conservative synagogues, we had Catholic churches, of course. We had quite a variety there. They must have kept you busy. That's why it took 2 grades. That's why it was sixth or seventh grade. You probably took both years to get around all the various houses of worship. We had the Quakers in Hyde Park. And Rachel was raised on the Golden Rule, which is kind of generic. The Golden Rule is a Judeo-Christian thing, I believe. So she can be anything as long as it falls under that. So she can't be a Muslim that way. Not that they don't have their own version of the Golden Rule. She can't be a Hindu and can't be a Buddhist because if she was raised on the Golden Rule, chances are that would have been an orientation of one of the Anglo-Saxon religions or Judaism. So, hasn't this been kind of fascinating to just think for yourself um, what is it you believe? And you guys may have asked yourself what you believe many times, and you may have answered the question for yourself. What do you believe? Um, See, and I knew a Quaker in Tucson. It was kind of the first Quaker I've talked to, and he told me they sit silently. They just sit there silently, and then at some point you can stand and speak. It seemed unusual, and it seemed beyond my reach. By the way, the Quaker house in Hyde Park was a place that I slept in the basement of once a week when I used to hang around the Blue Gargoyle. I would go to various fraternity houses, the Quaker house, church basements, and crash in these basements. And I would stay on the move. So I didn't want to stay at a fraternity house every night because they would have thrown me out. I didn't want to stay in any church basement because they would have thrown me out. But if you just showed up there like once a week, then you were welcomed as long as you didn't steal. So, and Rachel is now copying to Judaism as her golden rule guidance. So, I myself was riding my bicycle for a few hours today, about 4 hours. And I do this. I try to stay in the moment, but frankly, when you're riding, you often just drift through consciousness of a variety of things. And I pondered religion because one, I don't really have religion, and as a result, I am ambiguous about the concept of death because I don't have an afterlife to look for. I'm not sure how that will play out as I approach death. Knocking on Heaven's Door by Bob Dylan. Will I see myself as passing through the gates to the next world? Will I see myself as nothing? Will I see myself as a form of rebirth? Will I go to hell? I don't worry about going to hell very much. So, well, it's 6:38. It'd be hard to start a new topic. Um, so maybe you get now why I put "Do you believe?" Then I put religiosity, and "Fool on the Hill" kind of is a. I thought it has religious undertones. That this fool on the hill sees the sun going down, sees the world turn around. It's kind of that evokes a sense of religion to me, and yet nobody listens to the fool on the hill, but they'll sit in church and listen to some priest who doesn't have the skills of the fool on the hill. And Norwegian Wood is just a cool song. So I threw that one in there. Once you're on the Beatles, throw in Norwegian Wood, and also because it's kind of a cute love song, you know. So if there are no further comments, I think we'll begin to wrap this up. You've got a big night ahead of you. It's Friday night. You got your dinner reservations to tend to. You've got your your movies picked out. Maybe you've already got the popcorn sitting on the stove. Um, you couldn't figure out what Norwegian Wood. That may have been one of the great debates. What was Norwegian Wood about? I'll bet you that. I bet Mark McDougall has an opinion because he's really into uh, music. He's got one of the most extensive playlists. Um, I was along this bird of phone. So, yeah, I think it's about a guy who has a moment with a woman, and then that was it. That moment came, and that moment went. It's kind of the way I've always thought of it. It seemed to be the story of my life in a sense. They didn't always leave the next day, but no, and they didn't always leave, by the way. I often left. I'm Norwegian Wood. But why does it have that title? Now that could be ambiguous. So those three songs you should give a listen to if you haven't heard them in a while. They're hits. You know what I'm saying? They're hits. All three of those songs are as good as a song gets. And if you haven't listened to them for a while, now if you're the kind of person who listens to a lot of music and that these songs come up in your repertoire regular, then those may be bad selections because they weren't obscure, they weren't oldie. Well, actually, I guess in a sense there. But I'm just saying, I revisit the Beatles. When I lived in Chicago, every Sunday morning was uh, Breakfast with the Beatles on not not WXRT. It was a different station with this one DJ. He was really good, and I could hear his voice, but I can't remember his name either. Of course, as you would think. And he always played, I don't know, a couple hours of Beatles songs every Sunday. And it was great because I was always at the gym on Sunday. That was my church. I was always in the gym and I would be listening. And then I would run the track a couple of miles and I would be listening to Beatles. All right. So let's roll out of here. Let's do it in style. Let's do it with metta. Bringing our hands together before our hearts and bowing our heads, closing our eyes, and taking a deep breath. I glanced at Anne's comment. Of course they're good. So I'm taking a deep breath. I'm bringing my full awareness to this moment, to this undertaking of reflecting on loving kindness. May I be happy, healthy, and free from harm. May I be free from anger, anxiety, and fear. May this practice lead me to a life of greater peace and comfort. And too, for my mom and dad, wherever they are, to all my living relatives and all my friends, may they know the affection I carry in my heart for them. May they be happy, healthy, and free from harm. May they also find the path that leads them to a life of greater peace and comfort. And to those persons I find difficult, so many sometimes, this time of torn ideology, let me set it aside. May all persons that I may find difficult be happy, be healthy, be free from all harm. May they be enjoying their lives in this moment, knowing peace and comfort. And may all living beings throughout the universe, humans and non humans, be happy, be healthy, be free from harm. May all living beings know the quality of our goodwill and compassion for them. May it sustain them. May they be safe, comfortable, and at peace. Satu, Satu, Satu. Well, thank you, Kathy, Mark, and Anne. I don't remember anything from before I was born. I don't believe I will know anything after I die. Yeah, I'm kind of pretty much the same way. Well, you're welcome, Joan. And thank you, Rachel and Lisa. If Lisa was here today, and um, I don't remember seeing Lisa. Maybe early on. She often comes. No, I don't see that she was here. Joan was here. Becky and Chris, love them. Kathy, Tommy Stafford jumped in. I didn't understand his injection into this. Kathy, Rachel, Joan, and Mark. Okay. Swell. Thank you guys. Peace out. Oh, yeah. And if anybody